Weirding Way Media.
Random digital world. Ooh, that was cool.
I just adjusted the microphone. It's never done that before.
It had something to say. Welcome to the party, microphone stand.
That's hilarious.
Wild cat over there. All right. Shall we try this?
Sure.
Bum, 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 bum.
Playbills are always nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stop talking.
I want to play the washboard. Yeah, I'm ready, Kevin. Thank you. Welcome to 80s TV Ladies. Happy holiday bonus episode with your hosts, Sharon+johnson and Susan+lambert+hatem.
Hello, I'm Susan.
And I'm Sharon. We wanted to wish you all happy holidays and hope that you and yours are enjoying this wonderful season.
I love Christmas lights. I love candles and Hanukkah candles and the music. We started our holiday playlist just after Thanksgiving. Sometimes we start it during Thanksgiving and the kids get very upset.
Yeah, see, I'm with the kids. I think one holiday at a time. You know, at that moment, as soon as Thanksgiving is over, it's now Christmas time, and let the jingle bells ring.
I love that.
Are you going to put out your Christmas playlist on Spotify for our Patreon members?
I hadn't thought of it, Melissa, but thank you. Now I feel like I'm going to have to. Wow, no pressure there. Get it out quick.
It could be short.
Holidays right around the corner. You know, we throw annual Christmas Eve open house party, and it starts at 4 and goes
Forever.
for a long time. So we have a playlist that goes for hours, but Rich is responsible for that, even though I have say.
You have editorial.
I have editorial control, but so I got to come up with like a 20-minute playlist so people aren't overwhelmed.
Just chunk out a piece.
Just chunk out a piece.
Yeah.
Well, look for it on our socials.
In your spare time.
Melissa gave me an assignment before the holidays kick in.
Well,
what are your favorite part of the holidays?
Like you, I love Christmas lights. I don't know what it is, but there's just something about the lights, and it just kind of brings me joy. So, as you know, I sing in the candlelight choir at Disneyland every year. And as part of it, we do this processional through the park, starting at the back of the park by Small World, make our way to Main Street and up on stage to do the show. And one of my favorite parts of the whole thing, and we're singing Christmas carols as we go. One of my favorite parts of the whole thing is as we go around the hub where the statue of Mickey and Walt are, the lights on Main Street go down. And for whatever reason, every single solitary year, it gets me. And I get a little verklempt, and I need a moment as we're walking down. There's just something about it. So that's one of my favorite moments of the holiday season.
I love that.
Me too.
I love that. But you're heading out of town for the holiday?
I am heading back to see the family. In all the years I've lived out here in California, there've only been, I think, 2 years where I have not gone back for Christmas. Since my siblings and I are all spread out, everybody comes back to mom's house. And so it's the one time a year I could always be assured of seeing everyone in person. And happily, it looks like everybody's going to be there this year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Nice.
Melissa, are you traveling?
No, I'm going to your holiday party as
That's
I
right.
do.
You're always.
I'm the gimme. I have been at every single one since Queensberry.
Kevin, are you heading out of town?
Yeah.
Kevin is nodding yes. Going to Massachusetts.
Where it'll likely be very, very cold, comparatively speaking.
That is nice.
Do they have my favorite thing in Pennsylvania for Christmas time in the farmhouses, you would get a single candle burning in, not the actual candle, but it'd be one candle in each of the windows. I love that about the farmhouses.
Kevin says
That's
yes.
nice. What a roller coaster of a year it's been.
Yeah.
I was looking back at some episodes and realizing how joyful we were at a few of them.
Hopeful, optimistic.
And that's what I'm trying to focus on during the holiday time and beyond.
I'm getting there. Not there yet, but I'm getting there.
Hope and community and what will get us through, and joy and creativity and resistance.
That's so sweet of you. I didn't send you pictures of me doing the rocket launcher.
I'm sorry.
What?
You launched a rocket?
Well, simulation. You didn't see that? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. And I did a military simulator. It was fun.
Yes.
So that's how I'm gearing up. I'm ready.
You're ready. You're holding a real rocket launcher,
yeah,
but
it
it's a
didn't have
simulator.
the ordnance in it.
Yes.
So it was lightweight.
One would hope not, but.
Well, right. It's
They didn't give you that much.
no, although that would be really fun.
I'd probably.
not in a building. No, somewhere out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, okay.
Thanks, Kevin.
Listeners, do not use a rocket launcher in a building. Take it outside to the desert.
Yes.
Like any responsible rocket launcher owner should do.
Exactly.
Oh, gosh.
This is not the episode.
You thought it would be. You know, we live in a world that includes war. And I have a deep respect of our soldiers.
Yes.
Under fire.
Yeah.
Even from just doing a little simulation.
Yeah. It's, for Pearl Harbor, I got to go on the USS Stennis out at sea for 3 days.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And it gave me immense respect. I had respect, but that was like, oh, this is what people do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Was that
you can only imagine it until you're there.
Was that an aircraft carrier?
Yes.
Did you do the tailhook landing?
I did not do the tailhook landing. We walked on in San Diego, but we did do the launch off.
Oh, excellent.
My brother, the retired Navy captain, never got to do that.
Oh.
To his regret. All right.
I'm trying to focus on hope.
Well, right. I joined the Army.
Melissa's joining the Army. And, but inspired. What was this episode supposed to be about?
Well, it's inspired by the 80s TV ladies holiday episodes from shows that we're going to be talking about this season: The Facts of Life, Mama's Family, and The Nanny.
I'm so grateful to the Patreon supporters that we have. So I want to thank some of our top Patreon supporters, Michael and Anne, of course.
And Kate and Shari, like Starry.
And Megan and another Anne.
And Tara and Kate, another Kate.
Do we really have two Kates?
We have two Kates.
Thank you, Kates. Mrs. S. Becky, which is a reference to Cagney and Lacey, I believe. So, Mrs. S. Becky, thank you. I can't even say it. That must have been hard. God bless Tyne Daly and Sharon Glass.
And David and Annie, excuse me. We have Anne and Annie.
Anne and Annie. And Jeanette and Tanya, thank you guys so much for supporting the show. And please keep it coming. I want to welcome some of our new, we have also free patrons. You can be free for a while and see some things. Some of our new free patrons who are trying it out, like Karen, Brian, Dr. Glenn, Sandra, Patty, and Kendra. And you too can try us for free.
Yeah, there's a free trial. So if you think you've been thinking about it, check it out. And if you want to support us, it helps us immensely to produce this podcast. Advertising only pays a very small portion of the cost. So any support at any level would be really, really appreciated.
And part of what we're going to do in 2025 is really concentrate on providing really cool stuff for that Patreon and for our patrons. So later in January, we will be dropping some more video. And first off will be our Dorothy Lyman interview, the Zoom video from that. So stay tuned. We'll be doing a lot in 2025 with Patreon. Now it's time to get to the holiday episodes.
Yes, as we mentioned before, we want to take a look at the holiday episodes of Mama's Family, The Facts of Life, and The Nanny. There were 3 Facts of Life Christmas holiday episodes. There were 2 from Mama's Family and 3 from The Nanny.
I think there were 4 Facts of Life.
Were there 4?
There were 4, right?
Oh my gosh, you're absolutely
there's
right.
4
I
Facts
missed
of
one
Life,
somehow.
2 Mama's Family, and 3 Nanny.
There you go.
Okay. And so we're going to talk a little bit about those episodes briefly, and then we're going to say our favorite from each show. I think that's the way we should go.
That sounds good.
Okay. Do you want to start us off Facts of Life?
Sure.
Did I throw you for a loop?
Oh my God, my brain just took a break.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. That's what I want to do. That's right. Let's go.
The first holiday episode from The Facts of Life was season 5, episode 12. It's called The Christmas Show. Everyone was going off in different Christmases. Joe's plans go awry at the last minute, so she decides to stay with Mrs. Garrett. In the episode, Kim Fields and Charlotte Ray perform Deck the Halls.
I always love an episode that includes a musical number, you know that. And I'm a sucker for the holiday shows, particularly the Christmas shows. I always love when a TV series does that. I'm a little surprised that Facts of Life didn't do it earlier.
I am too. I actually am surprised that with all the shows that there weren't more, that there wasn't one like every year.
Yeah.
I for some reason, I think if I had to guess beforehand, that's what I would have thought had happened. But apparently not. So the next one is season 6, episode 13. It's called Christmas in the Big House. And this one has a lot of singing in it, actually, which is great. All of our main casts have a chance to get out and shine and show off their pipes. And it's really a lot of fun.
That's the one where Blair is organizing a holiday benefit show that she thinks is for like a boys' orphanage, and it turns out it's a prison.
Right.
A men's prison. So they still have to do it, and Blair doesn't want to. Lisa Whelchel can sing. They all can, but that was sort of a nice little surprise. She sings a cappella in that episode. And she was, of course, on the Mickey Mouse Club, so of course she can sing. She was raised by Disney. I enjoyed that one because it's got a lot of singing and a sweet little message. And then there's Christmas Baby. And Blair's mother is having a baby. It's a little bit of a surprise baby.
Yeah, a bit of a surprise. And her due date is coming soon.
Yes. And so you get a Christmas Baby episode. Nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
And Marge Doucet is Blair's mother, Monica. And she's recurring in these later seasons, I think. She plays her mother more than once.
Yes, because we see her a couple of times, I believe, in that season, at least in the lead up to the delivery, because of the surprise that her mom, the surprise baby that her mom, it turns out, is carrying.
And then It's a Wonderful Christmas. That's season 9. Facts of Life ran a long time. Once they did a Christmas episode, they did one every year to the end. There's your lesson, sitcoms. Do a holiday episode. Doesn't have to be Christmas anymore. It was hard to find a Hanukkah episode in the 80s. Or Kwanzaa.
Not unexpectedly, I suppose, but still.
And so It's a Wonderful Christmas. Well, of course, that's a take on It's a Wonderful Life.
All the girls have their own plans, and Beverly Ann, who has now replaced Mrs. Garrett, and played by Cloris Leachman,
who we love.
Yes, indeed. She feels underappreciated, so the episode is kind of a as the title of the episode may indicate, kind of a take on It's a Wonderful Life, and kind of giving her a sense of what might have happened if she were not there, since she's sort of feeling like, yeah, maybe I just don't matter in this situation to these girls. So, it's lovely.
I'm looking at which of those Christmas episodes was directed by Asad Khalada. Yes, he directed The Christmas Show.
Oh, okay.
The
Great.
first one. So that's fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's great.
Yeah. And so upcoming, we might have a very special guest for those of you listening to this show.
Exactly. Stay tuned.
Anyway, so of those episodes of Facts of Life, Sharon, which is your favorite? Which is your top Facts of Life holiday show?
I think for me, it's Christmas in the Big House. I really enjoyed the musical numbers, the fact that they all had a chance to kind of play that way. And, I love a Christmas song. So,
you know what, Sharon? I actually agree with you. Even though I'm like, well, I can't pick the same one now.
Sure you can.
But that little Lisa Whelchel moment was really nice, because then Joe joins on the piano, whether that's really Joe playing or not. But but it's very it does work completely as a Christmas episode and a Facts of Life episode. Although I'm going to also give that my second and bonus would be The Christmas Show, because it kicks off the 5 holiday episodes to follow, and clearly was successful, and also has Kim Fields and Charlotte Rae singing. So, Melissa, what was the first Hanukkah show that you remember seeing on TV?
Adam Sandler doing the Hanukkah song.
Yep. I think that was been for all of us of that time.
Yeah.
Would that have been in the 90s?
It was not 80s.
It was not. Yeah, it was Saturday Night Live. There was a couple Pee-wee's.
Did Pee-wee do a Hanukkah show?
Pee-wee did Hanukkah in the holiday show. There was a Hanukkah shout out in the holiday show, in that crazy, insane thing. And then I think in the 90s, the Rugrats
did a Hanukkah?
Did 2 Hanukkah shows.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to Mama's Family.
Good segue.
And now for something completely different.
I was just thinking too, is the 80s, is it because now everybody has a Christmas episode, even serious shows, I can't tell you how many Christmas episodes I did on episodic television. Do you think that was the start of it?
In the 80s?
Yeah.
Because variety shows would do Christmas
that's true.
stuff.
I'd be surprised if we didn't see Christmas episodes
always
way back. But I don't know for sure.
It's become a standard thing to do a Christmas episode or a holiday episode. I'm glad to see more diversity in that. Okay, we want to keep talking. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll keep talking for a little bit longer because we have all sorts of things. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Okay, we're back. Now, Mama's Family.
So the first Christmas episode, they only did 2 over the course of the show, was season 3, episode 13, called Santa Mama. Bubba wanted to...
And Bubba is Mama's nephew.
Correct. He's Enos's son.
Eunice's son.
Oh my gosh.
Enos's son is good too.
My God.
Uranus's son. So Eunice and Ed Higgins.
Ed, I thought her.
So anyway. That's his last name.
So it's his last name.
Mm-hmm.
So Bubba is Bubba Higgins.
Bubba Higgins. Good times.
That's a different show.
I
was a big fan of Good Times.
Good Times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Bubba's trying to raise money.
Yeah, because he wants to get a present for his girlfriend, and Mama's being kind of Scroogey.
Venton has gotten a job to be a Santa.
Yeah, so...
in the mall.
Yeah, and at the last minute, he loses his voice. And they're actually at the mall. The little kids are waiting. The parents and the kids are getting antsy. And since he's lost his voice, the folks at the mall are basically saying, sorry, Santa can't make it. And everybody's getting all upset. So Mama's like, all right, fine, I'll do it. So Mama puts on the suit and is Santa to a parade of kids.
Yes. Even though she declared at the top of the show that she was canceling Christmas this year because the star that her husband, who passed away, made for the tree is missing. And so she's like, I'm already miserable and this has made it worse.
Mm-hmm.
But then she has to be a nice enough Santa. And
she's, she's not taking any crap off the kids, but still she does a good job with the kids. It does soften her up a little bit.
A little softy past the crunchy exterior. And so this is very nice for that. And it's fun to see Vicki Lawrence as Mama playing Santa Claus. Because it's like there's a dress up upon a dress up in that. So I thought that was actually pretty fun. And yeah. And then the other Mama's Family Christmas episode is season 6, episode 14, Mama Gets Goosed, which, you got to watch that one. And Mama's talking about her childhood and the hard scrabble life of her childhood because she's expecting a gift from one of her relatives, and the gift arrives and it's a goose, a real live goose.
That's intended to be served at dinner on Christmas Day.
And the rest of the family is appalled, but Mama's thrilled and determined to, when the time comes, she's going to fatten up that goose and she's going to kill the goose for Christmas dinner because that's what you do.
That's what happens.
But,
whether it be a goose or a turkey or...
And spoiler alert, it turns out everybody leaves the house when it's time to do the deed. And she goes out to chop up the goose and ends up not. And so she makes what I liked is she makes a vegetarian fake goose.
The first tofurkey.
The first tofurkey.
Well, but they don't use the V word. She just talks about how she shaped the other side dishes
into a turkey.
Into a goose-like structure.
Into a goose. And then the actual goose joins them at the dinner table and gets some corn feed. So it's a lovely game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
which one is your favorite?
I gotta say it's Mama Gets Goosed, just because of the scene with Vicki Lawrence as Mama talking to the goose when she's going like, okay, just put your head down here. So she can chop off his head, and he's not. I'm a sucker for that.
I thought I liked Santa Mama.
Okay,
of the two, that was my favorite. I really liked how they kind of threaded the needle of taking Mama Scrooge and turning her into really a pretty darn good store Santa. She did a really nice job and really tried to make sure that the kids had a good experience, despite some of the things that, like, one kid stuck a sucker that in her fake beard.
Yeah, the gag of doing the photo flashing and catching poor Mama in uncomfortable shots during the course of trying to service the kids and their Santa love was pretty fun. But I'm going to stick with Mama Gets Goosed because, there's a live goose in the episode. It seems to be pretty happy. Although they drag it in the first scene that comes in. They literally kind of drag it through the door. You're like, okay, all right. I don't think PETA was on that set. Even though they don't say vegetarian, it's very clear that they're going to eat vegetable side dishes for fake goose.
Yeah, there's no meat on the table for Christmas dinner.
There's no meat on the table for Christmas dinner, and so I'm like, okay, all right, I as a part-time vegetarian, I'm like that.
I do wonder what eventually happened to Luther the goose.
Luther the goose,
because I don't know. I don't know that he was ever mentioned again.
Well, no, but they talk about Luther. They say something about we're going to keep Luther forever now, and Mom is like, no, we're going to find a home for him or something at the very end. So, yeah, I think maybe Luther the goose went to hang out with the chicken found in Queens by Eric Brown of Mama's Family. I wonder if the chicken story helped them make that.
Maybe
inspired, even though Eric wasn't even in the show at that point. Oh, that's funny. Okay. Anyway, so I'm going to say Mama Gets Goosed is my favorite. Although there is a mention of a New York real estate guy in that episode. So I would, if you don't want to hear that,
it's just a mention. It
is
goes
just
by
a
quickly,
mention, and it goes by quickly. But it did catch my notice about how ridiculous people were to just promote New York mobster real estate guys, even in the 80s. I guess that's where it started. All right.
The Nanny.
The Nanny. And, we're not really covering The Nanny during this season because it's not an 80s show, but we did talk a lot about it with Dorothy Lyman, and it's such a significant ladies show and ladies-driven show, both in front of and behind the camera, that I thought it would be fun to see what their holiday episodes were, and it was.
So the first one is season 1, episode 8. It's called Christmas Episode. There seems to be a lot of that in the shows.
It's Christmas episode. It's interesting, the titles from the 80s.
Yeah.
The TV title, the episode titles, they're not as thought out as they are now because people didn't really even know what they were.
Exactly.
You had no way to really, it wasn't often that you would even know what the name of that title was. They were just titled in-house for the writers and the producers. And every once in a while you heard about it, but it's not like it comes up in every episode. And now we are much more like aware of often the title of episodes. So I think that's pretty interesting that most of the time they were pretty perfunctory.
Right. And shows have gotten really creative about the show titles. I mean, Friends notoriously is the one with, the one where. I think one of my favorites, though, was for The Good Wife. Season 1 episodes had 1-word titles. Season 2, 2-word titles. Season 3, et cetera, up to season 4.
That's fun.
And then when they went to season 5, they went backwards. Season 5 was 3. Season 6 was 2. Season 7, where they ended it, was 1. I thought that was really elegant that they did it that way.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, Christmas episode of The Nanny, season 1, episode 8. Max is not going to be home for Christmas again because he's producing a benefit at the Kennedy Center, and the kids aren't particularly, they're resigned to it, but they're not particularly happy about it. And Fran is expecting a Christmas bonus because she's been told that he's very generous at the holidays, but instead Max gets her a one-of-a-kind vase that she pawns it so she can buy the kids presents, and then feels bad about pawning it, so she trades her grandmother's watch for the vase. So now she has the vase back, but she doesn't have her grandmother's watch, and et cetera, and so hilarity ensues with all of this back and forth. So that's their first. But they did a Christmas episode, season 1.
I know. I like that.
Yeah.
And again, they also didn't shy away from the fact that she's incredibly Jewish in the show. And so she talks, at least they talk about Hanukkah, and she talks about, this is my first Christmas, and the differences. So I think that, one of the things that I think was really cool about The Nanny was how front and center her Jewishness was, and that it was a point of comedy, but it was also a point of pride for the character.
Yeah.
So I think that is nice.
It was very much part of her character, and probably they were able to do that because she was an executive producer.
Yes.
So she was able to make that happen.
Yeah.
So
But it's funny because she ends up going to confessional.
Yes.
Oh, dear.
Yeah,
Is she allowed?
She shows up and literally she asks that in the thing. It's like, can anybody go to confessional? And then, of course, Mr. Sheffield comes and finds her in the confessional. So everybody has to break into the... Yes, in comedy, anything is allowed.
Okay. You never know.
No, it's true. I think that anybody can go to confessional.
Yeah. As a very lapsed Catholic, I'm pretty sure they don't ask for credentials when you go into the confession.
You don't start doing confessional until you have been confirmed at 13.
So after my bat mitzvah.
Yes, it's the equivalent of the bat mitzvah. But you can't, I mean, like, it's not like, I'm not sure they would turn you away.
I was a Hebrew school dropout anyway.
No, I can't imagine. The priest would be happy to talk to you, I'm sure, but there's nothing he can, quote unquote, do. Because
you're not carded.
Well, yeah, because what happens after the confession is you get prayers to say and such, and you don't believe that or you're not part of that faith. So, it
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't go and do the Hail Marys.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the chat, I think the chat would be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having the chat with the priest would be fine.
The interesting thing about the confessional, if they had used it properly. It was therapy, right?
Yes.
Like it was a little bit of therapy.
Yes, it is.
Early days of therapy, right? It's like, it's private. What stays here is, you're safe to say anything here and confess anything. And then I will give you some absolution. I will give you some solution for how you can process that.
Yeah.
Not my experience of the whole confessional thing. It was pretty much these are my sins. Do these Hail Marys. See you next time.
Yeah, I was terrified.
Oh,
because I felt like I had, because you have to make your first confession when you're 13 and doing your first,
Terrible.
And I didn't have anything. It was more like what do they want from me? I yelled at my mom.
Yeah, that would be a sin. Right?
Yeah, it all seemed kind of.
But it was like,
you're not honoring your mother.
Here's the thing. So my parents were divorced. I was raised in a single mom household. So the idea of telling a guy who seemed like he was a 60-year-old guy who had never been married, never in theory had sex, never done anything bad, because that was the perception of priests, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't know me. What good is you to me? Oh, God, this one didn't work out.
It was this very mysterious thing. It was never felt grounded in reality. To me, it was just sort of
it happens like in the movies where you're behind a slatted thing, right? You don't
and weirdly, I think the first one we had to do in person.
Oh, it does. Oh,
and I didn't like that.
I never had to do that.
I never had to do it in person. I had to do it in person the first time because it was part of these teachings and stuff. But again, all I had was I yelled at my sister, and
it's a good one.
But but you said I'm always wrong about these things. But honestly, I don't. If I had to guess, I would have said I started confession sometime in grade school. But I don't know. I mean,
you were in the Japanese part of it.
I
was in the military.
I was confirmed at 13, but I've been going to Catholic school.
Yeah.
I went to a Catholic school in kindergarten and first grade even.
Yeah.
So we've been going to Mass every Sunday. I honestly don't remember when I made how old I was.
It was in my memory and our church and, Catholic, can be its own Catholic. I was Southern Catholic. I don't know what that means, but that's what I was raised. And it was part of the teaching because it was a little modeled on Jewish faith in that you had to do some homework to go through the process of your first communion.
Yes.
And your first
your confirmation
into the faith.
Which is the same as the first reading from the Torah. Yeah.
Which I never put together until just now, that it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, all the Christian religions stole from the first religion.
Well, everybody follows the first five.
Yeah.
And then a certain portion
and then
keep
branches
going.
off.
We're all there in the first 5.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, so I thought that was kind of fun that that she ends up, it's funny.
Yeah,
The thing
that's
the
comedy.
nanny gets away with a lot because weirdly it is funny. It still holds up. It's still funny.
And interestingly enough, most Christmas episodes follow a particular set of situations having to do with getting presents, giving presents, seeing family, not seeing family. It's the variation of that. So in my mind, this is a very standard kind of Christmas episode. It's the details that are different, but people, they don't usually go too far afield in terms of what a Christmas episode is really kind of going to be about. And that's okay. As long as it's fun, as long as it's good. Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, the next episode they do is season 3, episode 14, Oi to the World. Now, there's a lot of Oi titles in this season, and the rest of this season was directed by Dorothy Lyman, except for this one because it was special. Because it's an animated special. And I thought that was cool that before Community or other, sort of shows did that, they did an animated Christmas special. And I was like, oh, well, that's very, very clever. I kind of wish the episode had been better.
I agree. I don't even remember what it was about. I'll be perfectly honest with you.
It's very confusing. Anyway, she falls down, hits her head in the snow. Like there's a big snowstorm. She falls down and it just stays in animation. And it's, on one hand, you're like, that's the opening of the show, is the animated opening.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like, okay, that's very clever. This is cool. But this one is very cray-cray. It's just, there's a dog. Was there a dog in the show? Like, I didn't remember there being a dog in the show, and there's suddenly a dog, and the dog is talking, and then she's with the son, and then we get into Niles. The butler is a character, other characters, and he gets to sing, which is fun. But the story within that episode is incomprehensible at best. It's like, So I was a little underwhelmed. I was very excited when I saw that it was animated. It's also hard to find because it was not in the regular listing, and so we had to go to a different platform to watch it. But yeah, so it was a very weird Christmas special. It was a very weird Christmas special.
It was a big swing that unfortunately didn't meet the ball.
Swish, man. I'm going to call that a swish. And it's rare. I give a lot. But that one was tough.
The very first, at least in our little grouping of Christmas episodes, season 6, episode 10 of The Nanny, the episode is actually called The Hanukkah Story.
Love that.
Yeah. So by the time season 6 rolls around, Fran and Max are now married, and she is pregnant with their first child. So Hanukkah's coming, and Hanukkah is very important to her. And once again, she's surprised to find that he's going to go off and work.
Yes.
For Hanukkah, the first night of Hanukkah. He's like, oh, there's other nights. Yeah, what difference does it make? Clearly, I haven't been talking about this. So that's what the episode is about him coming to the realization of what this means to her and how important this is to her. And it's a lovely episode, I think.
It is a lovely episode. And what it does do is give them an opportunity to explain Hanukkah. Mm-hmm. And that does do that, I think, quite nicely. It's funny, but because it's her going, no, this is important because blank. By him going, oh, I thought that we could do it another night, she gets to explain the importance of the first night of Hanukkah and the story of Hanukkah and all that stuff. So it actually sort of integrates that, I think, pretty nicely. Mm-hmm. I love that Ray Charles has been a recurring character. He's dating her grandmother. Like,
oh, that's fantastic.
So it's got all of her family in there. So it is about family, and the kids are funny.
There aren't too many Hanukkah songs. Someone asked me about that the other day.
Yes.
I'm like, I know
Dreidel,
one.
dreidel,
It's the
dreidel.
dreidel song. That's about
I
it.
made it out of clay.
And when it's dry and ready, oh, dreidel, I will play. That's it for Hanukkah songs.
And then Adam Sandler. But it's very charming. And also, what I didn't realize until starting to look at The Nanny again, when Dorothy Lyman was on, was that Sylvia Fine, her mother, is played by Renee Taylor, who is an incredible actress, has incredible, done a ton of stuff. But I didn't know was also a writer and was nominated for an Academy Award for co-writing the screenplay for the film Lovers and Other Strangers, based on the play she co-wrote, Lovers and Other Strangers, which I know because in the 70s, I saw my dad perform it on stage. Yep.
I did not know that. I knew of Renee Taylor, but I did not know that either. That's really amazing.
So I weirdly know that play, which is basically a sex comedy drama from the 70s. So every 9-year-old should be in that audience. Now you're understanding what formative years I had. So of the Nanny Christmas holiday episodes, which is your favorite?
It's definitely not the animated one.
Oi, not the animated one.
Yes, correct. I have been going back and forth between the Christmas episode from season 1 and the Hanukkah story, and I think it's a tie.
Oh,
I think it's just a tie for me. They both have so many things going for them, but on the other hand, I feel like I certainly can't vote against something with Ray Charles and Renee Taylor in it. So I gotta give it a tie.
That is so interesting. Okay. And again, you're not wrong. I think they're bold coming out of the gate, season 1 with a Christmas episode, and they face the Hanukkah issue of it all. So lots of points there. As a Nanny episode, it is a much better episode of The Nanny. Because the first one, the first season, the season 1, episode 8. The show is sort of, has hit its stride.
It's a very good but straightforward Nanny episode.
But I am going to say the Hanukkah story is my favorite, mostly because it's the Hanukkah, and I actually think it's got enough sort of, oh my God, tug of the heartstrings, and it still had some good laughs. But I'm gonna say the Hanukkah story because it was one of the few, and I have no doubt she had to fight hard to get it to be even called the Hanukkah story.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that by then they were like, yeah,
whatever,
do whatever you want.
I would too. But she had to wait 6 seasons for it.
As you said earlier about my choice, you are also not wrong. So
yeah,
there is no wrong answer.
There is no wrong answer. Before we get to the winners, I'm going to throw in a couple of weird, crazy bonus holiday moments from the 60s and 70s. Because, that wasn't on our list. And so I like to keep you
keep you on
surprise
your toes.
you. No, in the upcoming year, in our next episode, we're going to take a look at the origin story of Mama's family, starting with a look at the legendary Carol Burnett show. So here are a couple of Carol Burnett holiday episodes and snippets that, while not all full holidays, these episodes were not full holiday shows. Both of them have standout holiday moments in them. And that was the interesting thing about the Carol Burnett show. It was a variety show, but within the show that aired around Christmas, they would do a lot of holiday sketches and songs.
Yeah, there'd be holiday elements that are part of the show, but it wasn't the entirety of the show.
Right, and then they'd have a skit that had nothing to do with the holidays. Right. It was pretty interesting to kind of revisit that because we've started to, because we're going to talk about Carol Burnett and the origin of Mama's family. But and the interesting thing about speaking of titles, the titles of these shows were the guest stars. Season 2, episode 12, which aired December 16th, 1968. Going to go back. Not the 80s. Was entitled Eileen Farrell, Bob Hope, and Marilyn Horne. And it's a Christmas special-esque. Eileen Farrell and Marilyn Horne, very famous singers and opera singers. And that was the great thing about the Carol Burnett show. It brought out incredible talent every week.
But that was actually, the fact that they had not one but two opera singers on a network show was what was done back then. If you think back to the most infamous variety show of television history, I think the Ed Sullivan Show, he had all kinds of performers, including operatic singers, which was still something that was pretty popular back then, because I think a lot of people listen to the Met on the radio.
Yes.
Which people don't really do. I mean, it kind of lost its luster through the 60s, and certainly by the 70s, I think it had kind of diminished. But still, in 1968, when this episode aired, opera was still very much in the forefront for a significant segment of the audience that was watching television. So that was really interesting to see. I'd kind of forgotten about that.
The whole episode is a wonderful version of her show, because it's got the opera singers coming out and singing. It's got a great sketch. It's got a knockout version of Big Spender with the three of them, Carol Burnett, Eileen Farrell, and Marilyn Horne, singing Big Spender, which is super fun, and they look great because in their Bob Mackey was the costumer, so it's an element of elegance that you just don't see on television anymore,
and absolutely amazing production value.
Yes,
there is a dance number when I believe it's when Eileen Farrell sings. She's the first one that sings, and there's a 6 male and 6 female dancers who do this number and formal clothing. The men are in tuxes, the women are in ball. I mean, it's you never see that kind of stuff. I mean, and that kind of production value anymore. And this was every week on that show.
I know. I thought the skit was unexpectedly great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're all good, but
yeah.
I was very so the skit is Lyle Wagner is playing a movie star. And then this kind of nerdy writer is coming to interview him.
Played by Carol Burnett. She's the writer.
Carol Burnett is the nerdy writer, and she's completely unfazed until the Lyle Wagner comes out in his fancy suit and turns on the smolder. And so every time he kind of looks at her or talks to her, she drops to the ground and faints. And it's, such a great physical comedian. So it's fantastic. The timing, talk about the production value of that sketch,
mm-hmm.
right? It feels like she's in a rich house.
Right.
They are moving all over that room to do every physical gag they can so that she can drop to the floor and to the couch and to the wall in all different ways. She crawls across the floor at one point and cracks up Lyle Wagner. So it gets the little breakup moment. And then it has a great topper, which is, so she, finishes the interview and they escort her out. And then the butler, comes over to help him. And he goes behind the screen and he's like, oh, thank God I can relax now. And he takes off his cummerbund and his suit and all this kind of stuff. And then he walks out and it's Bob Hope. And it looks like Bob Hope when he's not being the movie star.
Funny.
Always funny, and Bob Hope is always good at playing, joking on himself and his looks. And I just thought that sketch was better than I thought it was going to be in the holiday special, and had nothing to do with the holiday.
Yeah,
that was sort of the only thing. And then they have a beautiful medley at the end of singing Christmas songs while they scroll on all the donations they're giving to various charities. Throughout, both locally and nationally.
Yeah, that was
pretty
amazing.
Great. Yeah, pretty great. Always love a Christmas medley.
And then the other one is with Alan Alda as the guest that originally aired on December 21st, 1974, season 8, episode 13.
At the height of his MASH fame.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And of course, it was also on CBS. Interestingly enough, there's, backtracking a little bit, there's a moment in the previous episode we talked about where Carol Burnett and Bob Hope are talking, and she mentioned something about his upcoming special on NBC, and then she goes, whoops, not supposed to mention the other channel, which I thought was kind of cute, which nobody cares about anymore, but it was very much a thing. The first skit, or the first thing in the show was a Christmas thing. They're both working in a
like a Macy's,
department store, and they sing a duet. And I either had forgotten or just simply didn't know that Alan Alda has a good voice.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, she was great.
Nobody Does It Like Me, which is, I was like, where is that song from? And it's, so I had to look it up. It's from Seesaw, a 1973 American musical with music by Cy Coleman and lyrics by Dorothy Fields, one of the few of the time female musical theater writers. Alan Alda, Carol Burnett, they did 4 seasons together.
That's right.
And turns out they were childhood friends. They known each other since they were very young.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Like in their preteen, like teenage, preteen. And so they have been friends for a long, long time. So there's a lot of chemistry between the two of them in this sketch. Again, the production value of it, the choreography of it, it's just beautiful. And it's just, again, this great, amazing sketch. The rest of the show, I couldn't find the whole show, but I found snippets. And so the other thing that's in that show is a family Christmas sketch with Alan Alda playing the sort of the brother we've not seen. So in
Eunice's brother, who's been living in New York, they think not able to keep a job.
Yeah, because he's a freelance graphic designer.
And they don't understand what freelance is.
So they just think he keeps getting fired. And also very, very funny. And so it's a very funny, the family sketch, very funny Eunice, and Vicki Lawrence comes in. And so it's kind of a neat segue into our Mama's Family episodes. But so those were my two. I think there were other times where they did a holiday thing or two, but I think these were the two ones where the most holiday stuff was in. Because, in the family sketch, he's come to surprise Mama for the holidays.
Right.
And things go awry, as they usually do.
Or Eunice.
And poor everybody. But Alan Alda's very funny in that sketch, as we know he can be. Mm-hmm. But the surprise of that episode, of the pieces we got to see, was him singing that duet with her. That was really incredibly charming. Okay, so of these two, sort of, and again, one's not a full episode because I couldn't find it. I'm going to keep looking. But what was your favorite of?
Oh my gosh,
Carol Burnett. The two Christmas specials, as it were. It's a hard one.
Yeah, I'm going with Alan Alda.
Okay. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Alan Alda in 1974, I got to tell you.
Well, first of all, that episode had more Christmas than the other one. It had Alan Alda singing, which was a lovely revelation. And it had a pretty good Eunice and Mama sketch.
Yes.
Some of them could get a little rough.
Yes.
Rough in terms of dramatic, serious, as opposed to funny.
Yes.
This one I thought walked a nice balance between the two. And he was great in that as well. So I think I have to go with Alan Alda. What about you?
That is so funny. Because I think until you started making your argument, I was totally Eileen Farrell, Bob Hope, and Marilyn Horne, mostly because of the ending.
No, yeah.
But I think you're right. As a Christmas episode, it's got to be the Alan Alda because it's more Christmas, and it is kind of the Carol Burnett show firing on its perfect cylinders, right? Like a special guest doing something you don't expect from them. And it feels the most like the precursor to Saturday Night Live, right? Like in some ways, because it's like, oh, suddenly this guest is going to come on and do something we don't expect. Like, if Eileen Farrell had come on and done a Mama's Family sketch, that would have been interesting. She came on and sang opera, which was cool.
Right.
And which I think was a gift of the times, right?
Yes.
For people that wouldn't go to opera or couldn't go to opera, to be able to see an opera singer sing, that was part of the gift of the show. But I think I got to go with Alan Alda season 8, episode 13, aired December 21st, 1974, right there in the 70s. I probably watched it, but didn't really know who Alan Alda was because I was too young to watch MASH yet.
I was watching MASH. It's funny. I've been thinking I may have missed that one because we might have, but we came back. We came back from Japan in 74. So by December, we would have been in the States, and TV junkie that I am, I'm sure I would have watched it.
Yeah. I definitely watched the Carol Burnett show.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. The whole Saturday night lineup on CBS was, you just couldn't talk about must-see TV. My goodness. I definitely would have watched it. I love the Carol Burnett show.
Let me go back here. Got to go all the way back to Facts of Life. Our top Christmas show of Facts of Life was Christmas in the Big House. We agree. Ding, ding. Our top Mama's Family. We're split.
Mm-hmm.
Mama's Family and Mama Gets Goosed. Sharon's a Santa Mama, and Susan's a Mama Gets Goosed. The Nanny episode, Sharon is Christmas episode, season 1, episode 8.
No, for the Nanny, I had a tie.
Oh, you had a tie. You tied them. Christmas episode and Hanukkah story.
I couldn't choose.
Okay. And then I went with Hanukkah story, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. That's what it was. All right, I knew we had something there. All right, so there you go. And then of the bonus of the Carol Burnett, go check out the Alan Alda episode or snippets of episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us to our audiography for the day. The links to many of these episodes and the clips we talked about will be in our description. So, going into the holidays, I've also put some books on order, Sharon, for our audiography, but also for myself. One is a magazine article, How to Survive the Broligarchy by Carol Cadwalader. And she's a great writer, and this is a very interesting article inspired by the next book I'm going to recommend, which is On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder, written first in the aftermath of 2016. But he's got several revisions to it, but it's some very interesting reading that I find helpful. And The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin, which I think I read back in college, but want to revisit. And Orwell's Roses by Rebecca Solnit.
Excellent.
So some light reading for the holidays.
Well, maybe
I'm going to get them for the holidays.
Maybe some airplane reading if you're traveling.
Yeah.
That'd be a good time maybe to, open up a book.
I just thought that maybe, there you go. Get ready. Go train with Melissa.
Yes. We're ready.
Well, speaking of Melissa, just a reminder about our Patreon. You can find it at patreon.com/80stvladies. And on Patreon, Melissa's Spotify music lists will be dropping. So please keep an eye out for that. Plus videos about behind the scenes things that we shot at the 40th reunion of the Scarecrow and Mrs. King event, where we got to meet a lot of really great people, many of whom had actually listened to the podcast, much to our surprise and
some
delight.
Some fans and some patrons
exactly
were there.
And then starting in January, once a month, we'll be releasing videos of our Zoom interviews. Patreon.com/80s TV Ladies.
I love that. Fantastic. I want to thank all of you guys for listening this year and for being a part of the 80s TV Ladies community on the podcast, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. We are also now on Blue Sky and Spoutable, in case you're on those platforms. And also we have a merch store, which we launched this year. It was a busy year. And so, but thank you all for listening and communicating. I am behind in returning emails, so there's lots coming in. And I will, if I haven't replied to you or one of us hasn't replied to you, we will be getting to you soon. So have a beautiful holiday.
We really do appreciate your feedback. And if you like our show, please leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever it is that you listen. You can mention what shows or ladies you'd like for us to cover. We want to hear from you. And you can find us at 80s TV Ladies on the various platforms.
We will see you in 2025. Be sure to tune in January 8th for our next episode, which will be talking about Mama's Family by way of Carol Burnett and the Carol Burnett Show.
As always, we hope 80s TV Ladies continues to bring you joy and laughter and lots of fabulous new and old shows to watch, all of which will lead us forward toward being amazing ladies of the 21st century.
Dun, 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 dun.
Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. One seems to hear words of good cheer everywhere filling in the air. Oh, how they pound, raising the sound.
Okay, I don't know how the rest of it goes. Okay, you at least know it.
Good cheer. It's my favorite Christmas carol.
Yeah.
Gaily they ring while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. On they send on without end their joyful tone to every home.
Happy holidays.